It's time to start. It's time to start the show. I am here. It's time to start. I don't know where to go out of here. Boom, 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 boom. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, wow. Good afternoon. Today is Sunday, September 18th, 2022. Welcome to the JB Show on the Revolutionary Blackout Network. I'd like to give a warm welcome to all of you and remind you that the JB Show streams every single Sunday on Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can catch me on RBN Live on Tuesdays at 4 and the Sabby and JB Show on Thursdays at 6. I also host my own channel called the JB Font Channel during the week on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are new, please make sure to click that subscribe button. And if you are so kind, please hit the like button and the notification bell to let you know whenever we go live, because you know that the algorithm just doesn't like us. So I would like to say hello to all. I got my tea here. I added a little bit too much sweetener though. Ooh, I put too much sweetener in there, but it's good though. Some good tea. As the young kids say, sheesh. Don't get me started. I'm trying to keep up my lingo with with all the kids. Dead ass, no cap. But I like to give my customary hellos to everybody as well. We have Angela in the house. She says, another live stream I won't be able to stay for. But I'll show some love to the like button and we'll absolutely watch later. Have a great show, JB. Mwah! Forehead kisses. That was for you, Angela. That was for you on the rewatch. Thank you so very much. If you guys haven't taken the poll, make sure to take that poll. All right? I want y'all to take the poll because this is going to be a very interesting discussion about homelessness today. Because and this is a subject that's closer to my heart because there was a clip that came out last week. Sabby talked about it on her show, but I think sometimes there are certain subjects that need to be hit hard again. You know what I mean? So it's like Sabby and I are the 1-2 punch on this. So I'm going to be the number 2. So it's going to be good. All right. Sarina Swauer says, howdy, comrades. So good to see you. Uncle Warren's in the chat. Extra Boya says, have a great show, JB. Working on some things, so I have you as my background ambiance. Ooh, you say those fancy words. Keep saying those fancy words, Uncle Warren. All right. Mike Ferreira says, I voted no on this poll, only because my mother took me and rent free. If not for her, or when she dies, my disabled ass is homeless. Oh, man. Yeah. I got you, man. I got you. I hear you. All right. Luis Antes says, I lived in a shelter for a week and then transitioned and then transitional housing for 2 weeks. And I am a licensed attorney with a PhD and $250,000 in student loan debt. Damn, Louis. That's a lot. All right. Brandy Weaver says, hello, everyone. Sorry, chapped lips. It's dry. Look, I'll tell you this much. My lips are so chapped right now. Kissing me would be an occupational hazard. Goodness gracious. Okay. Sorry about that, but I had to do it. Yipper99. Hi. It's so good to see you. All right. We have Eric Gray saying, "What's up, everybody?" All right. We have Corihor saying, "Currently home." Oh, man. Corihor. Oh, I'm sorry. Oof. I know what that's like, man. Um, hey, if you're on Twitter, tag me and put in like your Venmo, your Cash App, your PayPal, whatever links that you need, and then I'll retweet it and hopefully, get some mutual aid your way. Okay, make sure to do that. That's to anybody who is in the chat. I'm on Twitter and it's at JB Font. I don't care if you have to make a Twitter just for this. Do it, and then I will, just tag me in it, and then I'll retweet. I just make a tweet with my tag in it, and then I'll retweet it out for you. Okay. I mean, we got to do something. I don't really have much. That's why they're doing a fundraiser for me for my housing situation, which is going on right now too. So I fully understand what you're going through. MJ, the anti-imperialist party, says, "Yo, so good to see you." Jenna Colby is there. There's an ad for Bombas on. Bombas? I don't know what the. I'm a little confused. Bombas. I don't know. Louis says, "I say let's keep the good cheer and pleasantness to a minimum when discussing homelessness, which is inherently depressing and requires realism and outrage to address it." Yeah, I got you, but I'm also I also am a pretty bubbly person, so I try to, also keep hopefulness in as well. But yeah, I understand what you mean. George is in the chat saying, "Currently and permanently housing insecure." Yeah, I'm there. You see. "Hey everybody," says We're a Pilgrim. All right, good to see you. Good to see you. All right. All right. We have Fat Man TV. He says, "Thanks a lot, oh Biden." Ooh boy. What's left? News and analyst with Jay Snow says, "Love you, JB. Keep up the great work." Thank you. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. Silver Wolf is in the chat. Solidarity with you, Silver Wolf, as well. All right. So good to see you. Ooh, yeah, Zach Davis saying, "Hello, my brother JB." Hello, Zach. So good to see you too. Mad Marxist says, "Solidarity with RBN as they increasingly come under attack by self-appointed left authority white racist anarchists." Thank you so much. Solidarity with you as well. Appreciate it so very much. So Gato is in the chat saying, "Our overlords make it illegal to be resourceful in pursuit of a home." Thank you so much. We have John Tebby saying, "JB, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you too." All right. Zach Davis says, "JB, you should do another stream on disability in America and maybe a call in." Yeah, I'll get to that eventually. I just got to gather up the people and be able to do that. But yeah, I haven't. I did a disability discussion with Michelle a couple weeks back on my channel. So, but yeah, I got to have another one on RBN. So we got to do that again soon because those are very important as well. Gary Seth says, "The Nation That Never Was." Brand new history book titled by the great grandson of Teddy Roosevelt. Interesting. Very interesting. Oh, wow. Okay. We have Nick is in the chat. I'm not the GOAT, man. Nah. But I appreciate it. I learned so much from people like y'all. You guys teach me too much to the point where I can't be. But I appreciate the love, man. It definitely means a lot coming from you. Really, really does. Let me see. Who else is in that chat? I gotta get started. But We have George. Bervin says monk fruit extract. Actually, I think that's what I have. So yeah, I put a little too much in there. But yeah. MJ, the anti-imperialist party, says number one, we need to prevent companies from buying housing properties. That's also very interesting. Wesley is in the chat saying, are you going to talk about how minimum wage is a socialist program that is keeping everyone poor? I mean, I wasn't going to talk about minimum wage in particular, but I mean, it definitely will come up into the conversation. But I mean, we could talk about um, that how minimum wage needs to be a thriving wage and how minimum wage is supposed to be a living wage. And um, I don't necessarily think of it as a socialist program. I mean, the actual definition for socialism is workers owning the means of production and distribution, and it being community owned and ran. That being said, um, the minimum wage laws were really dictated by the corporations when they actually hold power over our politicians in order to keep the wages low so that they can actually have more money driven up to the top. So that's really dare I say, a capitalist program that is designed to keep people poor, because if you have more poor people, that means you have a lower amount of rich people, which means that the wealthy actually are able to keep more money at the top and hoard more of the wealth. So I would switch that word socialist to capitalist. That actually jives more in line with the program of keeping as low a wage as possible. So yeah. Holly Horn is in the chat. Hello. Hello, Holly. Purple Philosophy says, what's up, Jay? Any news when you guys will be having a mutual aid conference? Uh, that that is, we have to discuss that. I think CJ's working on that one, but that kind of goes in line with general strike too, because you know, but we're going to the anniversary of the general strike summit is coming up, and we're doing an activist summit, which is kind of in line with the general strike summit. We're doing it in tandem with that for the anniversary, so definitely mutual aid will come up though. Definitely, you can count on that. So I'm going to be starting, and hello to everybody who I didn't get to say hello to. All of you, mwah, mwah, mwah. Love to all of you. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is something that's close to my heart, and housing is close to my heart because number one, I know what it's like to be housing insecure. I know what it's like to have family members that are housing insecure. I know what it's like to be housing insecure as a child. I know what it's like to be housing insecure as an adult. And so, with that being said, this is something that I've dealt with all my life, and I'm still dealing with. Don't let me on this box in front of your screen fool you. Okay? I'm still dealing with it. Okay? Just because there's some other people who may be doing the same thing that I'm doing, and they have thousands of dollars coming into their Patreons, and they have, you know, sponsorships and all that other stuff, that they're able to not be housing insecure. That's not me right now. And that hasn't been me yet or at all. And so being housing insecure is what I think is a stain within our modern society and within the capitalist structure that we currently are living in. A lot of times, and I said this in a tweet, some of y'all are housing insecure, or some of y'all are homeless, some of y'all are in poverty and won't acknowledge it or don't even know it. No, for real. Some of y'all are living either in poverty or damn near close to poverty, and won't even acknowledge it. Don't even know it. Why? Because you're taught that it's a shameful thing, that you shouldn't acknowledge it, that you should deny every single turn that you get. It's like, no, 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 I'm not poverty, I'm not in poverty. Oh, no, 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 I'm not homeless. When you look at it, the reality from an objective standpoint, I hate to break it to you this way, but you are. You are. But it takes an analysis of looking at the system as it is and saying that yes, I am. But you also need to come to a conclusion that when it comes to poverty, homelessness, housing insecurity, in its absolute sense, it is not your fault. That's right. I said it. It's not your fault. I'll say it again for the people in the back. It's not your fault. It's not. You're sleeping on somebody's couch. You're working and you're sleeping on somebody's couch, or you're disabled and you can't afford to live because you're on disability or something like that. It's not your fault. You're dealing with some mental health issues, and you can't afford to, you know, you can't emotionally or mentally or physically afford to be able to have housing. It's not your fault. It's not. Those of you who have just fell on hard times, it's not your fault. Those of you who are getting paid crap wages, it's not your fault. I don't care if you didn't even go to college. It's still not your fault. It's not your fault. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. You need to hear this. You need to hear this because, and it has to be told to you thousands of times. I'm going to keep telling you, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It is not your fault. No matter what those billionaires tell you, because they got rich because of a rigged system, it is not your fault. Just like they were able to become rich by a rigged system, you were able to be made poor by a rigged system. It is not your fault. Do you understand me? Do you understand? No. Are you looking at the screen at my face right now? Do you understand me? It is not your fault. Stop blaming yourself for systemic problems. Stop it. Do not do that to yourself. It's not your fault that the system, the systemic issues that we face, are giving you diseases of despair. It is not your fault. How many times did I say it's not your fault? I'm going to say it again. It's not your fault. Don't own that. Don't eat that. Don't hold on to that. Do not let that lie permeate your mind and your heart. It is not your fault. I don't care who says it is. I don't care who places the blame on you. That is a lie that's perpetuated by the capitalist system to make you think that your poverty, your homelessness is all on you. Systemic problems require a systemic solution. You cannot change systemic problems on an individual basis. You can alleviate them as much as you possibly can, but unfortunately, it takes away from you being able to truly live your life. You can be not homeless, but at the same time, You're not even living at your home. You're living at your job. You're spending 50, 60 hours a week working at one or two of your jobs just to try to make ends meet. So you're really merely existing. You're trying to keep a roof over your kid's head, or it may not even be your kids. You're trying to keep a roof over your parents' head, or your siblings' head, or your nieces or nephew's head, or your partner's head. Because what if you have a partner and it's something that they're dealing with, that they're unable to uh, participate in labor and produce, but you're trying to take care of them? Say it with me. I don't care if you're alone in a room by yourself. It is not my fault. Say that. It's not my fault. I'm gonna get attacked by some people. Be like, oh well, no. People have to be responsible for themselves and blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh yeah. This is a nation full of collective amount of people that actually collectively pass laws in order for us to have a certain type of life within this system. And then a lot of those laws are being dictated by the people who are at the top as a collective are telling us that it is our fault, even though they systemically made it so that it's harder for us to live. Would you say that is an individualistic thing? No, we don't have a king. We have a group of oligarchs who are a small, tiny collective that are telling the rest of us that no, you have to achieve everything on a systemic on an individualistic basis. So now that I got through all that, right? I want to give attention to a very brilliant person. This brilliant person is Dr. Richard Wolff. And thanks to Savvy for talking about this this subject a couple days ago. Dr. Richard Wolff has on, I think his name is Robert Robertson or Robinson. I'll get his name correctly in a second. But he's talking about homelessness, and this is from Economic Update. This episode is actually linked in the comments below. I'm sorry, in the description below. And this one's called Economic Update: Record Homelessness Defies U.S. Solutions. So this is going to be an interesting discussion, and I'm going to be pausing at different intervals to interject my thoughts into this. But I really want you guys to give a listen to this, and then we're also going to be going into some articles talking about homelessness and the different types of homelessness that there exists out there. Absolutely, there is not one single type of homelessness out there. There's different types. We're also going to get into that as well. So we're going to start.
To land and housing. He works with social movements all around the world, especially related to access to land and housing, to debt issues, and police violence. And he does that in a human rights framework. He lectures widely at many different universities, and currently he's an adjunct professor of urbanism in the Design and Urban Ecology program at Parsons New School University in New York City. So first of all, Rob, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me back, Mr. Wilson.
All right, let me start with a new report. City advocate Jermaine Williams reports in his latest report that there are 80,000 New York City residents listed as homeless. Can you just give us, and I know this is difficult, but in your own words, in a short, summary way, what does this mean? How do we get our heads around 80,000 people in the city of New York that have no home? What does it mean for them? And what does it mean for the larger community?
So thank you. First, let me say, I think that number is a low estimate. I might make the argument, I think I could make a valid argument for the number being close to 150,000. Because when you talk about homelessness, you're talking about people in shelters, you're talking about families doubled up, you're talking about people living on the streets, and I'm not so sure we do the best or the most accurate count when we can. There's a federal count that takes place every year, counting people on the streets, and I'm not so sure how accurate that is. But I think.
So first off, okay, when he talks about he's not sure how accurate that is, he's absolutely correct. Because families that are doubled up, right? Let's say, for instance, actually, no, I'm not going to say for instance, because here's what I'm going to say. Okay. I have had family living in my house. I've had family sleeping on my couch. I've had family double up with me. I have been part of the family that was sleeping in another family's living room. That's also homeless. That is. If you have to live with family members because, and it's not because, oh, you just want to be closer with family, you just want to continue to stay living with them. If you're unable to afford your own place and you would at least like to be able to have your own, but you have no choice but to live with family, especially if you don't have your own space. And by having your own space, I mean like your own room. You're homeless. You are. Sorry, but you are. And you may not think it. You may be like, well, this is my family. You know, they're taking me. It's like, no. You are. Because if you can't be on your own, if you're doing that under duress, in fact, let's get the definition. Make sure that we're using words correctly. Okay. In a dictionary, duress says threats, violence, constraints, or other action brought to bear on someone to do something against their will or for better judgment. If you're living with family and you're only doing it because you can't afford to, it's like if the choice was given, if money wasn't an option, would you still be living with them? And if your answer is no, you're under duress. That's what you are. You're living with them under duress. If you're working for a job and if money wasn't an issue, would you still be at that job? You're working under duress because you have to survive, right? It's not something that you would like to do. It's something that you feel you have to do in order to survive, in order to be able to still have a house, in order to be able to still have healthcare, in order to be able to still, have, pay for your education and things like that. You're doing stuff under duress because you're always constantly under the threat of homelessness. You're still under the threat of always having lack of education. You're still under the threat of always not having health care. That's under duress because you're under threat. right? Let's continue. That's also, oh, by the way, the duress part is also a key component of capitalism, and that's how they keep people under, because it keeps people under duress. So that it's basically that kind of like that whip behind you to make sure that you can constantly are under duress, so that you continue to slave for the people at the top. That's part of capitalism, by the way. To some of the capitalists that are in the chat. Let's go. All right. Continue, sir.
I think the fundamental issue is rents rising faster than wages. And that's always going to put people in a strange and precarious situation. I think you very well know in New York City, where we both are, rents are upwards of $5,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan. And I think the outer boroughs are no bargain either. You go to places like Brooklyn, it's around $3,500. The Bronx lowered, believe it or not, to about $2,200. But these are high numbers, and this is difficult for people to deal with.
Well, JB, just move out of the area where it's so expensive. Just don't go there. What do you, man? Come on, supply and demand, right? Just move out from that area. What are you doing? Just living in there in that place so expensive? Move out into the suburbs, man. Move out into more rural areas. It's a lot cheaper out there. How many jobs are out there? Transportation. People who, those of us that can't afford a car. How do we get back to the city without breaking the bank? And don't get, and I'm talking about this from just a single dude's perspective. What if you're a parent, or what if you're a caretaker for a family member? What about them? Oh, that's their problem, right? That's their problem. It's their problem, right? That's their issue that they have to deal with. And don't get me started on the wages that these employers pay, these starvation wages. Well, just look for another job that pays better. It's kind of hard to do that when everybody's paying the same rate within across, different industries. It's kind of hard to do that unless collectively everyone bands together and says, yeah, no, we're not going to work for you guys until you guys actually start raising up your wages. But then the capitalists start saying, nobody wants to work anymore. But that's the market, right? That's the market. That's the market saying, okay, we're not going to work for those wages until you guys raise it. So now you're forced to raise your wages, but instead you just complain to the corporate media going, nobody wants to work anymore. No. They don't want to work for our starvation wages anymore. So guess what? Now we have to raise our wages, which means our dividends aren't going to be as high. Oh, phooey. Shall I continue? Let's continue. Let's go.
Why is now the time when we're hearing that these are record numbers? The 80,000 in that report is listed as a record high in the history of the city of New York. I mean, what's going on that makes it bad now? And especially given that, at least, I mean, you know better than I do, of course, decades and decades of talking about this, of commissions about this, of reports about this, out of politicians promising to deal with it. Why? I mean, not only did they not solve the problem, but we're at these records. What's going on?
They exacerbated the problem. So let's start with the pandemic and sort of work backwards. The pandemic exacerbated an ongoing issue. This issue is not new, as you clearly laid out. It's been in existence for a number of years here and around the country. But the solutions that people in power have come up with don't work. They failed, right? Because there's a fundamental issue of when somebody is homeless, it's because they don't have a home. So our answer has been in places like New York is to put people in shelters. A shelter is not a home. It doesn't surround you with the sense of community, with the sense of medical that you may need to work on a problem like this or to end this particular problem. And I think we have to get more creative of using vacant spaces, right? We'd rather rent for profit rather than take the money that we spend on homelessness, which is a problem in New York. We spend close to $5 billion a year in New York City to try to handle this issue, but we're not handling it. We're just sweeping it to the side. And I think part of the problem is a law that came into effect in 1989 in New York called the Right to Shelter Law, which we're hearing a lot about now because migrants out of Texas are being sent to New York because of this law. What that law essentially says is if somebody comes to the city on a given night and says, I want a shelter bed, the city is obligated to give them a shelter bed. And sometimes that sits for solving the problem. That doesn't solve the problem. That sweeps it to the side. People are homeless because they don't have a home. So we have to come up with better solutions.
So the point is, one of the points I say, he makes a lot of great points in this argument, that when it comes to the homelessness issue, we spend billions of dollars on the homelessness issue, and we still have homelessness. From a business standpoint, that is a bad ROI. Bad ROI basically meaning return on investment. From our perspective. However, from the capitalist perspective, that is a great ROI. You want to know why? Because it keeps more police in the streets. That means that they can continuously arrest homelessness, right? Which also racks up the bill and then sends more money to the ultra wealthy, right? Because guess what? Then you have some of these jails and prisons that are privately owned, and they get money and subsidies from the government in order to put more people in prison and jails, right? So then they get more money, okay? Then on top of that, a lot of rich people, they'll probably donate and give tax write-offs, from donating money to homeless shelters. So they're donating to the poor, so they're getting tax write-offs, right? So that also is part of that. And then on top of it, when it comes to criminalizing homelessness, you have a lot of people who are just, they constantly want to just sweep it under the rug because they just don't want to see it. And study after study have shown it's actually cheaper to house people. It's cheaper. It's cheaper. Because you don't have to pay police to pick up homeless people, right? You don't have to pay them to, bulldoze the tents and the personal belongings of the homeless people in the streets. You don't have to pay all this money for shelters. By the way, our insurance premiums, if you're under private insurance, actually goes up because they have who covers the cost for homeless people constantly going to hospitals, really because they don't have a place to live, and then because they're subject to the elements, they're able to get sick more often. Guess what? Who pays for that? So guess what? And then guess what? Those premiums and all that goes up to where? The top. Who collects all that money? The top. So when it comes to ROI, for us, it's a bad investment to keep homelessness like the way it is. For the super rich, it is a great investment because that means that having homeless people means that it's more of a cash flow coming into their pockets. So it's actually beneficial to give homes to the homeless. It is cheaper to give homes to the homeless. But unfortunately, because you have a lot of people who actually want to make as much profit on property as possible due to being capitalists, guess what? Then housing costs go up and then people can't afford homes. So let's continue.
You know, I've heard the following statistic, which is in Jermaine Williams's report again, that the shelter, as you point out, was always designed to be a temporary way station to what is a permanent or would be a permanent solution. And yet, families in the latest year for which they have documentation, which I believe is 2020, the average number of days in a shelter by a homeless family in New York City was listed as 500 days. In other words, we were sticking people into the temporary shelter and they were there more than a year and a half. Isn't that a sign of failure of a system?
Yeah, absolutely, that's a sign of failure. And that's what brought me to this work. I think you probably know my own personal story. I'm formerly homeless. I spent 10 months in a New York City shelter, and I was told, you were only in there for 10 months? Wow. And I thought that was problematic. I thought a shelter should be something that was temporary, 30 days for a month, and then you had to find a permanent solution. But shelters have become homes in New York City and other places around the country for people. They've become permanent solutions, right? Because our elected and appointed officials can't seem to come up with problem solving. And part of that reason is because they've never experienced the problem. They're trying to figure out something they know nothing about. Bring in people who have this lived experience, who understand what they went through, who knows what led them into the situation to help resolve the issue. I do think we're moving in that direction a little bit in New York City. We have somebody named Jessica Katz, who is our chief housing officer. And one of the first things she did, which other mayoral administrations had never done, was put out a report, a homelessness and housing blueprint. In the past, they've always been separated. It made no sense. Why are you separating these two issues? You're homeless because you don't have a home. So whatever you're doing to solve housing solutions should include homeless people. But the city has always taken a road that they would separate the two. And I think the problem sort of spreads across the country because people look to New York City for answers, right? Just like the governor in Texas shipped people here for an answer to a problem he doesn't know how to answer. I mean, there's some other underlying issues of why he did that. But he's saying they handle it better than I do. Well, no, they don't. No, they don't. It's problematic the way it's being handled, not only here in New York City, but around the country.
You know, I'm an economist, Rob, and so
Yeah, I mean, if they knew how to handle it, then it would have been handled. It would have been handled if they knew how to handle it. Why can't they handle it? Because they're going at it from a perspective that really just doesn't work. You're saying, oh, well, you know, you have to lift yourself up by your bootstraps in order, basically, you're lifting yourself up by your bootstrap, which basically means that you have to achieve everything on your own, right? It's funny. Achieve that phrase I just used, achieve everything on your own. Why is that funny? Because nobody has ever achieved anything on their own. I'm going to say it again. Nobody has ever achieved anything on their own. There's no such thing as a self-made millionaire or billionaire. Hell, there's no such thing as a self-made thousandaire. In order to be able to achieve the gains that some of these billionaires and millionaires have gotten, there had to have been systems and labor in place in order to make them achieve such vast amounts of wealth and opulence. That means it was done collectively. The only difference is it was done in an unfair fashion. That's how capitalism works. And that is why it needs to end. I say burn capitalism with fire. That's right. Welcome to RBN. I'm James Fauntleroy, your host. Burn capitalism with fire. You want to know why? Because it's the reason why we honestly have wars going on abroad. This is why we have little brown kids that are being blown to bits by the military industrial complex because they want more money because war is profit. This is one of the reasons why we got people shooting people that look like me in the back without a gun, without any type of arms, because guess what? It's good business. This is why people like me, 1 out of 3 people who look like me are sitting in prison right now. Why? Because it's good business. Because it makes a lot of profit, right? This is why. This is why you have so many people. This is why I'm literally having a fundraiser for myself because of housing insecurity. This is why people, my comrades at RBN, literally were like, JB, you're having housing situation problem. We need to help you. So guess what? We're doing a fundraiser for you. This is why. Wait, is it my fault? Is it all my fault? And please don't say, well, there's resources out there for housing insecurity because we have those systems in place. Guess what? A lot of those systems have been cut. They have been chiseled away by our government. Why? It's not because it's the government. It's because corporations have taken control of our government. And they want all those public dollars for themselves. They don't want it to go to any of us. Why do you think so many people who are disabled, like myself, who are on disability, living in poverty? Why? Why? Because you have what we call a corporate takeover of our government. And they do not want any of those public dollars going to anybody that looks like me. They don't want to go to anybody that is in a wheelchair or anybody that has any cognitive disabilities. They don't want any of that money going to them. Why? Because they're greedy. And that's what capitalism does. It exacerbates greed. It's an environment that lets it grow and fester. And you can say, well, that's just the nature of human beings. Then why do we allow a system that actually still continues to allow it to happen? Why? Does that make sense? to continue to allow a system that exacerbates greed and selfishness? How does that make sense? How is that advanced human society in any way, shape, or form? Capitalism breeds innovation. What innovation? What innovation? I got 50,000 different types of lotion, and yet you still got people sleeping out in the streets, and you want to call that innovation? Get the fuck out of here. That's not innovation. That's greed, bruh. Greed. 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 Guess what? Look, I can come to you with 3,000 different types of towels, and yet our education system is crap. What is that? Greed. Greed. Somebody comes with an idea. Hey, maybe we should make a cell phone. By the way, all the components within the cell phone were actually developed inside public universities. And so it was done by public dollars in order to create the cell phone. So guess what? The cell phone wasn't technically created by capitalism. It was actually created by the public, by the way. But I digress. So somebody could say, well, let's open source the technology of this phone and make it modular so that everybody has it, so that everybody has access to the internet and communication freely wherever they go. But somebody will say, well, no, we need to make profit. So guess what? Now you're under duress because you need to have one of these, because you cannot survive really without one of these. And then on top of it, well, guess what? If you don't, then you're without communication device. Because that's exactly what this is, a communication device. You're just without one. Just too bad, so sad, don't care. I was in the middle of a rant when I saw this super chat. Thank you, Give Them the Boot. Says, if an entire hotel is bought and homeless families are given 8 rooms, do you see this as a shelter or home? Shelter. Yeah, that's what I see it as. Thank you for the super chat. There was another super chat that was in here. Radical leftist extremist says, poverty and homelessness are weapons used to scare the working class into falling in line and not rising up. Radical leftist extremists, you said it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I ain't got nothing else to say for that. Yep. Even Nick's like, yeah, that was a good one. There's consensus between you and me, Nick. By the way, Nick, if you want to jump in on the stream, I welcome you, by the way. Anyway, I'm just putting that out there because you have great takes. But anyways, so I want to continue this because this is, if I keep ranting, I'm not going to get to all the stuff that I want to get to. But I really want to get to the rest of this. Okay. Let's continue. Oh, nope. I hate when I do that. Okay. All right.
Look at it through the lens of economics. And here's what I see, and I'd like your reaction. In order for people to have a proper, decent home, there have to be 2 conditions met. They have to be earning enough money to afford a home. And the other side, the price of the home has to be within the range of what their income enables them to afford. And the problem with homelessness is you're either charging too much for the home or you're paying these people too little for their income. And so that's your problem. You've got to jack up the income or lower the price Otherwise, you're not dealing with the economics of it. Does that make any sense?
It makes total sense. Well, let's take it piece by piece. The landlords certainly aren't going to lower their rent. They're greedy capitalists. They want more, as much as they can make, right? They're going to keep taking and taking and taking. Wages, again, aren't rising that fast. The boss doesn't want to pay any more than he's already paying, right? So, you're running into two things that are bumping heads with one another. Let's take it piece by piece. The landlords certainly aren't going to lower their rent. They're greedy capitalists. They want more, as much as they can make, right? They're going to keep taking and taking and taking. Wages, again, aren't rising that fast. The boss doesn't want to pay any more than he's already paying, right?
That's the point. That was the point. Did you catch it? I played it for you twice. I played it twice. That was the point. Okay? The division between capital and labor is capital does not want at all to pay more basically for labor at all. In fact, if they can pay you as little as possible, that's what they want to do, because it means that the amount of money that they make is concentrated to the top. That's what capital does. Labor says, we want to work as little as possible for the most bang for our buck. But here's the thing. Capital is holding most of the cards right now because of the destruction of unions within this country, and also any type of economic system that has threatened capital is being demonized. Go back to the McCarthy era, where anybody that was a socialist or communist were demonized back then. Because what did we as socialists and communists want? We wanted the workers to be the owners of the means of production, not for all of it to be concentrated at the top. Therefore, meaning that the wealth is more distributed, because if we're the ones who are making the gains as workers, that means it's spread throughout more, which means that everybody has a foundation and a level where everyone has a decent standard of living. It is not relegated to just a small few. And that's what it is. And then you have some of these people who are landlords and real estate owners who they want to keep the prices as high as they possibly can. And they want to milk as much as they possibly can away from workers in order to be able to make more and keep all that money at the top. So that's the way it works. That's capitalism, my friend. And that's one of the reasons why I am anti-capitalist, because it basically extracts money away from everybody for just a small, tiny little bit, without realizing that every single one of us on this entire planet are intrinsically linked. Meaning, if I suffer, indirectly you suffer. And if you have joy, indirectly I have joy. And if you prosper, then I prosper. And it goes in a circular fashion. That's the way it works. That's the way this planet works. Capitalism is unnatural. I'm going to say it again. And I don't care if I get hate from the chat. I don't care if I get hate in the comments. Capitalism is unnatural. It's as unnatural as feudalism. I said what I said. Oh, JB's on today. JB's on today. Nick, my brother.
My man JB spitting so much fire. It ignited my soul, and I had to join him. So much heat coming from you, my friend. Especially covering an important issue like homelessness.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of people tend to ignore. They tend to forget. A lot of people, they tend to talk about just the working class, but they don't care about the people who are in poverty. And that we're not afraid to call it out. And we take the chances of losing and scaring some people away. But the problem is capitalism. there's a story talking about how much household wealth how much household wealth people lost. And then the headlines when they was talking about that was they were like, "Oh, household wealth has fallen in this country." And my response was, "JB, fallen where?" I'm asking you guys. Look at the headlines. I'm gonna see if I can find one for you guys. U.S. household wealth has dropped drastically. Dropped where? They talk about wealth dropping in this country as if the wealth just disappears, JB, as it vanished in the air in pure sky.
Yeah, it just flew away. It was like, I'm gonna fly away. I'm gonna fly all the wealth away.
Let me see if I can find the headline.
You know what's funny?
Here it is. Let me show you.
Wait. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, JB. I didn't mean to cut you off. But here's the point, because this is the headline that I covered. There we go. You say U.S. household net worth falls most on record. Falls where? What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Where's this money going?
Yeah. Does money just disappear out of thin air?
Then they will do a story like billionaires make record profits. And then people don't put the two and two together. You guys realize they wrote that in two different stories. One story, billionaires making record profit. The next story, household wealth falling. And people are like, oh, it's not capitalism. There's no way the system is connected to that. Oh, man. JB.
Where the hell do you think the money goes, bruh? Where's the money go?
They say we go into recession. The United States, we go into recession, and then billionaires make more money. This is not a recession to you. What the fuck? I would love for a capitalist to explain how that makes sense to you guys. Every time in 2008, there was a financial crisis that was caused by the bankers, and then the bankers got millions of dollars worth of bonuses, JB.
Mm-hmm.
The same people who
we just worked hard for our money. We just worked really hard for it. It's like, yeah. You know what? A thief works really hard to go into that store and just steal out that shit. Oh yeah, I worked really hard. I actually was able to take out the alarm system, and then I buried a hole. Yeah, I worked really hard.
I'm mugging my tea. I'll be right back. I'm mugging my tea.
Okay. All right. So, one of the things that I would like to do is I'm going to continue with this really quick. So let's go.
At some point, this system has to really implode itself. It's not going to work. Even our government says the money you pay for a home shouldn't be more than 30% of your income. Well, you'll go around the country and most people are rent burdened. They're paying over 50% of their income for housing. So it's problematic. It's problematic wholesale. Then,
okay, so he said that you're supposed to pay at least 30% of your income on housing, right? 30% or less of your income should go to housing. That being said, let's take a look at something, right? All right, so let me share my screen really quick because we're going to do a little math here. I'm not that good, but hey, it's whatever. You know, Nick, you're better at math than I am, but
hey, I was a good math student, man. I was a good math student.
Okay.
I just wasn't disciplined.
Okay.
Let's do it. Let's do some math.
Okay. All right. So, according to the Google machine, all right, actually, okay. It says the average American renter pays $1,326 a month. For those looking to move, prices are even higher. The average asking rent is now $1,900 a month, with single-family houses averaging $2,018 a month, while a typical apartment costs 1,659. I think that's a typo. Google, y'all need to. I'm sorry, World Population Review. Y'all need to tighten up on your spelling. But anyway, so let's just take it at the 1326 per month, right? So if it's 1326 a month, it's supposed to be your monthly rent, and that's supposed to be a third of your rent, a third of what you take home. Let's do the math. So that's 1326 times it by 3 because it's supposed to be a third, right? Times 3. That means that you're supposed to be taking home $3,978 a month net, not gross, net. Because guess what? That's how much you can afford. That's after taxes, right? Because that's how much it is, right? $3,978. If you take $3,978 and you divide it by 160, why did I say 160? Because 160 is the amount of total hours that you work 40 hours a week, 4 times a month. So divide that by 160. That comes out to $24.86 an hour.
Speak to him, JB.
So if that's $24.86 an hour, what is the federal minimum wage, people? The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. Meaning, the wages, the federal minimum wage is way less than what it's supposed to be. And then people are like, oh, we need to fight for 15. No, fuck fight for 15. The hell with that. No, we need to be fight for 40. Like, come on.
Let me tell you guys something.
Okay.
Let me tell you guys something. I'll pass to you, JB. Mm-hmm. The Fight for 15 movement started like 15 years ago.
15
and it was a great wage suggestion 15 years ago. Shame on any progressive in 2022 that's still going around saying $15 minimum wage.
$15 an hour.
But sorry, go ahead, JB.
Mm-hmm. So, that being said, a lot of y'all are in poverty and won't even acknowledge it. I said what I said. Why? Let's go. Let's show it. A lot of y'all in poverty and don't even know it.
Mm-hmm. They paid credit for our iPhone though, so it's all good.
It's all good. All right.
We got Netflix for $9.99. It's all good.
Yeah. Actually, it went up. It's like $13, $14 now. $14 a month now.
Quite a bit. I haven't watched it. Yeah. I haven't watched it in quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's go. Poverty line in the United States, right? 2021 poverty guidelines. Okay. Now, this is what the guidelines are, right? So if you're one person, you need to make at least $12,880. I'm sorry, at the most $12,880 in order to be considered impoverished, which to me is utter BS. Why? Because, and I'm going to tell you why. So let's do the math, people. Bring out your calculator. So $12,880 divided by 12 comes out to $1,073 a month. In order for your rent to be a third of your income, your rent needs to be $354.20. Who in the hell has $350 rent in the United States? So guess what? That means that if you need over $24, almost $25 an hour in order to afford a place in the United States, that means that this list of the federal poverty lines is outdated. It is absolutely wrong. And guess what? According to our living expenses within this country, you are in poverty. Guess what? Most of us are in poverty. Accept it. Deal with it. And let's use that anger that you're coming up with in your mind right now, and let's use it in order to push for actual change. Let's get our asses out in the street for that. Because guess what? You're in poverty. And guess what? And like I said at the beginning of the stream, baby, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault that the federal minimum wage is $7.25. That's not your fault. It's not your fault that these corporations are hoarding all the wealth and your surplus labor isn't going back to you. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. But there's something you can do about it. There's something that we can do about it. That's the good part. That's what I want to talk about, right? Because everybody's talking about, well, it's your fault that you're not making enough because you didn't go to school. Well, guess what? There's a lot of people that went to school, did all the right things. I put right things in air quotes because just because you go to college doesn't mean it's the right thing, because college isn't for everybody. Let's put that on the table right there, because just because you go to college doesn't mean you did the right thing. Because guess what? There are people who went to trade school or people who just didn't go to college that are working hard and working their ass off.
JB,
They
say, hey, if you want to make some money, just go to college. Stop complaining. Work and study hard, and you will make some money. Stop complaining, you fucking kids. Then we went to school, got degrees. Now we're in debt. They're like, well, you dumbass. You should have never went to school. You should have took a... You guys see what they say to us?
Nick!
Now they're like, well, you should never went to school, you dumb kid. Now you're in debt.
The goalposts. They're constantly moving the goalposts, man. They're like, oh, well, you should have went to college. Go to college, then incur all the student loan debt. Well, you shouldn't have signed. You shouldn't have incurred all that debt. What's next? Oh, well, we went to college. Now we got ourselves a decent housing. Well, I shouldn't have gotten housing that expensive. But the thing is, we want to live in a safe and nice neighborhood, and have enough rooms for our family in order to thrive, or to at least to survive. Well, I guess you guys should all just be living in one room and being on top of one another. You see, the logic is always making excuses for the opulent and overly rich and the money hoarders, but they never want to give that same deference to those of us who the system is not our fault. Right? It's crazy.
Your argument in this segment was so good. I love the way you crafted your argument, JB, because you used their own numbers against them, used their own language against them. And they have so much of these contradictions that they can't reconcile with. Mm-hmm. They can't reconcile that their poverty rate makes no sense. And people who consider themselves progressives, they will just repeat it like it makes sense. That's all Bernie Sanders repeating that shit like, oh, because of the child tax credit, we lifted millions of people out of poverty. Okay, congratulations. That single mom that makes $21,000 a year, she now makes $25,000 a year. Congratulations. What do you really accomplish? Now what real leftists were saying. We were saying, for one, this is a half measure. For two, you're not increasing the quality of life for people. But you think that little small increase they get in tax benefits, that was nothing. According to capitalists, the way they view poverty, they're like, well, as long as you have a roof over your head and you're not literally starving to death. If you're not literally starving to death and you got a roof over your head, check them off the list. You're not in poverty. And guys, you guys see that list? I'll pass to you, JB. But you guys see that list? That list is terrible, right?
Yeah.
But despite that, 1 out of 5 kids live in poverty in this country, according to them. So even with their statistics, as ridiculously low bar as it is, we still got insane child poverty rates. Now look at this number. Let me fact check my child. I think it's 1 out of 5. Let's see. I'm gonna type child poverty USA. I report on this all the time. I should know about it. You have either 7 million or 11.7 million. It said 1 to 6 kids. So I fact check myself in real time. That's what we do. 1 to 6 kids are in families below the poverty line. JB, how does that make sense? When you look at that goddamn number that they showed you, how can 1 to 6 kids live in a condition worse than that? That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Guys, do you guys understand how crazy this is? 1 in 6 kids. Like, look at that table. Look at number 3. This is the example I always use because this is the example that is the most relatable, right? Mm-hmm. The single mom with 2 kids is number 3, right? 3-person household. $21,000 a year. Mm-hmm. A single mom with 2 kids. Mm-hmm. $21,000 a year? Are you guys serious? And 1 out of 6 kids in this country is in that position. But people were talking about incremental change, as if they're not waging a class war against us. But JB, go ahead.
By the way, that $21,960, that's a little over $10 an hour. That's above the federal minimum wage. That's above the federal minimum wage. And that is considered poverty.
They can't be serious.
We can't. They won't even raise the federal minimum wage, and the federal minimum wage is actually below the poverty line. Like, who does that? Like, what? You mean to like, come on. If you don't think that our government is not taken over by corporations, you've been sleeping under a rock. Wake up, Rip Van Winkle. Like, holy shit. People are literally dying out here. And then when I say we're under duress, I mean that shit. We are literally living under duress. Now.
And JB, but the greedy workers, though. The greedy workers always asking for more. Go ahead, JB. Sorry, I was just being silly.
No, that's funny. Because here's the thing. And you also said that people, as long as they're not, literally starving and they have a roof over their heads, then they're okay. But here's the thing. Just because you have a roof over your head doesn't mean you're not homeless. And that's the point that people need to realize. Let's go to a video. Actually, no, I'm not going to go there yet. I'm going to go to this article really quick, because this is a good article to get into about that. So, first off, let me go to my tweet real quick. My tweet said, I said, a lot of you are poor but won't admit it because you're brainwashed into thinking that being poor is a moral failing in this country, when in reality, it is a systemic failing. Once you accept it as a systemic failing, then you will want to change the system, which the rich don't want. So, once you are able to accept that it is not your fault, but you have the power to change it collectively, that's when the opulent and the wealth and the oligarchs are going to be scared. Because when you actively start to do it, that means that the money that they stole from us, I'm using that word very literally, the money that they stole from us, we take it back. So,
no, the wealth fell. It fell, JB. The wealth fell somewhere. It wasn't stolen. That's the language they use.
Yeah, right. But let me see. Okay. This is an article. This is out of the University of Central Florida. The title is, "This is Just Temporary, a study of extended stay motel residents in Central Florida." My hometown. All right. So I'm going to go to the abstract first. I'm going to read that really quick. And so that you guys get a sense of what this talks about. So the abstract, it says, motel life has existed in the United States for over 100 years. However, it is not until the Hearth Act in 2009 changed the federal definition of homelessness that those who live in motels more or less permanently were considered homeless persons. This project utilizes qualitative, semi-structured interviews with 18 families with children who are living in motels to explore their experiences with motel life and social service providers, their housing identity, and identity management strategies. Findings show that most of the motel residents did not identify with the conventional definition or image of homelessness, and instead negotiated their term to fit their situation. Although they did not initially self-identify as homelessness, when discussing policy recommendations, all participants adopted a homeless social identity, i.e., they identified as members of homeless social category. As members of the homeless community, The participants agreed that homeless families in the area needed more attention and assistance. Participants were aware that outsiders view them as homeless, and during their interview, several identity management strategies were used. Motel residents describe a hierarchy of homelessness and place themselves at the top of it, perceiving themselves to be better people than even other motel residents. Temporarily displaced thousandaires, basically. The identity management strategies employed by the participants were meant to show how they were good people who were just stuck in a motel because of circumstance outside of their control, and how they were deserving of assistance to help their families move out of the motel and obtain adequate permanent housing. Interesting, right, Nick?
Yeah, that was I did. Yeah, I haven't seen it before. It's super interesting. Super interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JB.
So I'm going to go to page 9. Let's see, page 9. Let's see. Okay. I think it's page 9. No, page 10. Sorry. Okay. So this part, let me make sure I expand this. Okay. And move this over. All right. So motels as housing in the U.S. Browning conducted exploratory research on people living in motels across the nation, where she described the evolution of the use of hotels in the U.S., as well as the people who use them as alternative housing. Although mainstream media presents families living in motels as a new face of homelessness, people have used hotels as residence since the 1790s. Beginning in the 1790s, as a result of visibly increasing homeless population and overcrowded shelters, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, started placing individuals and families in hotels, aka welfare hotels. According to Groth, by 1990, there were from 1 million to 2 million people living in hotels, which meant that more people were living in hotels than public housing in America. I'm going to read that again.
Very stable society. Very stable.
Okay. According to Groth, by 1990, there were from 1 million to 2 million people living in hotels, which meant that more people were living in hotels than public housing in America. Browning's research revealed that regardless of the type of motel residence that people have become, those stories started off the same. Something happened, and they needed a place to stay, so they found a hotel and moved in. 3 patterns of hotel residents emerged in her data. Number 1, the permanent settlers, the sojourners on open-ended stays, and what she calls, quote-unquote, regulars, who cycle between a hotel and other housing. Permanent settlers are described as individuals who make a conscious decision to live in a hotel motel. These individuals have no desire to rent or to own, quote-unquote, traditional housing, and they are comfortable calling their hotel room their home. They even decorate their rooms. The sojourners have similar stories as permanent settlers, except for them, their stay at a hotel is temporary. These individuals believe that something will come through that will enable them to move out of the hotel. They're just not sure when that will happen. The last category, the quote-unquote regulars, include the labor migrants, those who need housing for a short period of time for work, and then return home, or vice versa, with their hotel is their home base as they travel between jobs. It is also includes those who move into a motel in the winter because, quote, it costs less to stay in a motel room than to heat their rustic wood homes, or live in RVs and stay at motels from time to time. So here's the thing. Just because you live in a hotel or motel or an extended stay motel, you're still homeless. You still are. Who has done this? Me. Have I also lived in shelters? Yes, I have. I've done it as a little kid. Have I also had families and my people in my family has lived in hotels? Yes. Have I also had families living in under my roof and in my living room? Yes, multiple times. I've had homeless people, family members, as well as I have been homeless in my life. So I know what it feels like. With that being said, a lot of people will go, but JB, there's resources out there. There's shelters. You guys can all go to shelters. Like Anna Kasparian said, oh, they just don't want to go to the shelters. Remember that? Nick?
They gone full TYT gone full Fox News. And just like you said, I know I housed 3 people over the last 2 years who otherwise would have been homeless. Cause I got an extra room. That's sort of that basement, that door behind me.
Yeah.
So that doesn't count as not being homeless. You got the mental well-being for us to have a home you come to, a place that is yours, cannot be overstated. And that is why capitalists, they just put you in hotels and they see you living with a relative and they want to make their system look better. So they say, oh, you're not homeless. So I love this. Go ahead, JB.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you guys something from the mouths of people who are homeless. That whole thing about, oh, they just don't want to go to a shelter. Let's let somebody who's actually homeless, let's let them describe it for you.
Out here saying, okay, get a job, go get a job. Okay, how? Explain to me how. I go into a shelter, 90% of all the shelters, you have a person off in the corner smoking a boogie and a staff member not doing nothing about it. You have other people while you're sleeping stealing your stuff. You have staff members sexually assaulting females inside the facilities. So most of them rather sleep outside in the danger and the cold than actually be in there, because when the reason why they left them or out on the street in the first place is because their mom or their dad or their brother or their uncle or someone in their family was either mentally, emotionally, physically, or sexually abusing them. So they're out here just because they'd rather not be in that environment. That's why you got so young kids out here. They out here saying, okay, get a job.
And Anna Kasparian want to stick the cops on that guy.
Right?
That's all I have to say, right, JB? Like that alone show how insane their position is. But go ahead.
Yeah. And I cannot let this go without being a representative of the queer community and saying how many of those people who are homeless are kids that are sleeping out in the streets or sleeping on somebody's couch or sofa because their family was abusive or rejected them, and now they have no place to live. How many kids out there? How many trans kids are out there because they have to sleep either on a friend's couch or sofa, or they have to be out in the middle of the streets in order to be able to survive? How many of them? And how I'm sorry, I really want you to sit with that for a second. People like me are out there that don't have a place to go because of what their family has either done to them or has rejected them. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
Stop trying to remember what I said. But I was about to say, imagine how crazy the capitalists are. Their disdain for the homeless. I heard Tucker Carlson, the way he was talking about the homeless was disgusting. As if these are people who just made the choice to be there. That's why I love that you brought that up. And that guy brought that up as well. A lot of people who are homeless are victims of gross and inhumane crimes against humanity brought about upon them. People they know.
I just quit my job. Finally free.
And they just immediately blame anyone who is homeless and say it's just a moral failing.
They out here saying, okay, get a
That's just how sick our society is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to let you guys know, this is an actual YouTube channel called Homeless Homies. I'm gonna put I put the link in the description, but I'm gonna also put it in the chat for you guys.
So I see someone in the comment question mark good chat. He said, "Imagine how many." I'm gonna pull it up. 'Cause I like this comment.
Please.
Imagine how many good, smart, and nice people are victims of the system. When we did tour for the poor in Kansas City a few weeks ago, we was feeding homeless people, and everyone we met there was extremely nice, extremely sharp. Every single person I looked at, I saw people that were just screwed. I don't know every single person's individual story, but just how kind, how nice they was. I could tell, like, man, that's not them, man. And the only people that think that, people who it has to be the kind of elitism that many studies show that a lot of privileged, wealthy people, they kind of develop like mental illness. They lack empathy so much. So they well off and they see homeless people and they see them like almost like a disease, something that needed to be fought against. That's the anti-conspirant TYT philosophy, guys. But JB, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, I actually want to address this. P. Wayne Smith, very beautiful statement. Some landlords have religious requirements. Some shelters have religious requirements. What if you're atheist?
That's so crazy.
What if you're atheist, but the only shelter in town is one that has religious requirements? What if you're of a particular religion? Let's say you're Muslim and you're homeless, but then they want you to worship their Christian God. Then what?
Like, Donald Trump is horrible, right? Mm-hmm. But this is kind of stuff this is why I didn't have Donald Trump derangement syndrome. Let me spell this out for you guys. If you're someone who is a Christian and you turn someone away in the middle of winter, and you say you're not going to house them because they are Muslim and you have these religious requirements, you have the moral high ground over nobody. Like, how can anyone pretend that person is worse than Trump? I would put them at the same level of evil. Like, if you allow someone to go homeless just because of religion, right? You guys see what I'm saying?
Oh, Nick, you don't want me to get into that because
that's just moral.
Look, just what you just said. Even in the Bible, Jesus said the exact same thing that you just did. Boom.
What do you say?
The parable about the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan was a person that was from Samaria. Well, the person that was laying in the street was actually a Jew. They didn't have the same religion. They weren't of the same. They weren't from the same land. They weren't countrymen. This person was completely different. And yet, a man of his own nation, of his own religion, passed him right by. Then a merchant passed him right by. But somebody who wasn't even of the same religion or the same nationality was the one that actually helped him. The one that actually picked him up, put him on his mule, took him into town, put him inside of a local inn, paid the innkeeper and said, take care of this man, and I want you to take care of him until he comes to health. And then whatever more expenses incur, I'll come back and I'll pay the rest. See, that's what the parable was. And guess what? Even Christians have deviated from their own religion in order to be able to incur more profit because they have become peddlers of capitalism. Oh yeah, JB's on it today.
Yeah,
JB today because I'm sick and tired of this BS. I'm sorry, Nick, but you got the wheels turning right now, bro.
No, you're on fire. You're on fire, man. You're on fire because that's such a powerful way to say it too. To use religion against these capitalists. I'm not religious, never been religious, and luckily I'm able to talk to people without using religion. But that is a talent that Dr. Cornel West had, and a lot of I think Chris Hedges as well is deeply religious. and tying scripture and people deeply held religious beliefs. Look, guys, I believe in taking the W however you can get it. I don't care. Use any tactic you can. And if someone has this religious belief that they swear by, and you can see contradictions that you can use to pull them to the left, do it. Do it. And that's powerful. That's why I love it. I can't personally do it because I'm not religious, but it's good. I'm all for any tactic that you guys can use to pull the workers to the left. And JB, I actually found something while I was listening to you. It's on the same topic of homelessness. It's kind of an interesting good news story that I can make a quick segment out of. I want to get your thoughts on it because I just found it.
Please.
It shouldn't take too long. It should be really quick.
Cool.
So they had the American Rescue Plan. Biden raised all these monies for cities, and then he told mayors of cities to give COVID relief money, American Rescue Plan money to the police. That is the messaging that has been coming from the Democrat Party. Eric Adams.
All right, I'm gonna head out.
Yeah, feel free to interrupt JB. But Eric Adams, once again, a Democratic mayor, has been waging a historic war against the homeless in New York. The LAPD busting our homeless. Once again, these are blue cities, blue areas. What is your lesser of two evils? But there is interesting news. It's somewhat positive. I want to see where this goes. Fox News melting down as something actually good news.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. I want to see how this Denver is proposing a UBI for homeless people.
Oh yeah, I heard that one.
You heard? Look at this. This is the headline I saw.
Okay.
Denver set to give 140 homeless people up to $12,000 in cash as part of a basic income program. So what they're doing, instead of taking that money and giving it to cash like the Biden administration, giving it to cops like the Biden administration wanted, they're gonna give the money to the people. And Denver is like, they doing a lot of good progressive things up there in Denver, especially with all this damn money they got. This is they got all this damn money, and they giving it for a good cause. This is a good cause, so I just want to share this because I think it's pretty related. I'm very interested to see what this will actually do, because my theory of change, and I think their theory of change, is obviously if you just give people money, you spend less money doing that than having anti-homeless infrastructure, policing program. Like, how much money are you guys spending? Study after study show that you actually be more effective just taking care of people instead of having this ridiculous ideology. So we see. We've been interested in how that plays out. So JB, I just want to share that. Anything you want to add?
It's a step in the right direction. My only issue with UBI is that this gives capitalists the idea to take advantage of people just because they get some money from the government. So, for instance, if they are, if they're spending some of that money on rent, who's to say that a landlord won't raise their rent exponentially just to get as much of that UBI? Because that comes out to about $1,000 a month. So what if they're like, oh, well, we're going to increase your rent to $650, $750. Oh, it's still discounted, but we're going to take 3/4 of your rent away from you just so you can have a place to stay. Just be lucky we don't raise it higher. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of it, it doesn't give an account for, the amount of money they have to pay for food, for travel, things like that. So while I think UBI is good in some ways, I think more universal basic services is actually better a little bit, because it means that you have a right to housing. You just have a right to housing. You have a right to, to food. You have a right to clean water. And so when you are, in utilities, these things are just naturally given to you because you're a human being, you don't have to worry about trying to provide for these things. So UBI while it's good in some ways, also my question is, the people who are getting this, what is their situation with SNAP benefits, food stamps? Are they able to still get the same amount, or did that go lower, right? when it comes to things like utility assistance, was that counted? Did they count that $1,000 a month with that? So that's my question, because it's kind of a means tested thing. So I'm still kind of wary of UBI. I'm more of in favor of universal basic services.
Yeah, JB make a lot of good points there, and that's why the neoliberal capitalist half measure approach is not enough. All thing is good when these things go to the people instead of the cops and the military. But the neoliberal half measures end up actually making the problem worse.
Yeah.
In the long run, especially if they use UBI like Andrew Yang and a lot of libertarians wanted to do, use that to cut social programs, that would be a net negative in the long run.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have good working class leftist housing programs that get rid of landlords. So that's a great point JB brought up. You implement UBI, you just give landlords a reason to take that money away.
Yeah. Like Red said, basic income without transfer of class power will fail like every other reform, but some lives will be saved. Yeah, it's true. Because that's why I say it's relatively good, for some. But, it... Don't worry about it, nigga. No, I'm just kidding.
Bro, just jump off for like 10 minutes, bro.
We'll be off in like 15 minutes or so. But I just got a few more points.
Oh, he got a show? Is he doing a show?
Are you doing a show, Rome? Soon? Let me know.
He's trying to jump on with us.
Yeah. He laughed when I said I love you, man. But yeah, so I just wanna I wanna go to this point right here. This person is arguing for capitalism. Wesley says, do you know that the state of California spends $106,000 a year on every homeless person? Sir, you just made my point. You just made my point. Thank you so much. It would actually be cheaper to just house them than to spend $106,000 per homeless person in the state of California. You would literally be fiscally responsible if you house the homeless. Thank you for making my point, Wesley.
So Wesley, are you telling me that the capitalist central planning model is ineffective? Is that the argument you're making for us? Thank you. I agree. California, a capitalist state, has a horrific central planning model. That's the argument that we've been making.
Yes.
California, they believe in neoliberal, laissez-faire economics, and they believe in giant state defense budgets, which is why they spend a ton of money on anti-homeless architecture. That's why they spend a ton of money on policing and all these ineffective ways of handling homelessness. Right?
Yeah. Justin B, thank you so much. Justin says, I answered no on the survey, but I would say that I've been housing insecure, couch surfing at points in my life. You might add that next time. Okay, thank you so much. I still consider couch surfing homeless. Couch surfing is homeless to me, but that's why I didn't add a third option.
Yeah, and as someone who houses people, you can tell they're just not as comfortable as they would be if they was at home. JB, you know too, because you have friends that live with you. I had really close blood relatives that live with me, grown adults, but you can tell there's just a difference between just crashing on the couch and being at home.
Yes,
there's just a big difference, guys.
Yeah. I'm literally housing somebody right now. Literally. Okay. Kathy, thank you so much for the love. Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. All right. Corihor says, look up a song called Landlord by David Brovix. Thank you. Appreciate that. Roger Meadows, so good to see you. Regarding minimum wage, more precise to go to site to download. Which site? I can't remember. Didi,
Baby in the house.
Nick has had many unhoused people live with him. He just doesn't talk about it much. Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. Those of us who can, we do. And when I say unhoused people living with me, I'm not just talking about family. I'm talking about I've had friends also. So and it's so many of us that have had to go through it.
That's why we have Rome. He stayed over here for about a week, and he was like, "Yo, I appreciate you letting me crash." I was like, "Yo, it was just like having my brothers over." Like,
Yeah.
and it was just thing. I'm lucky where I just have extra room, and everyone knows that. Like, if anyone's down, everyone just know hit me up, and not something like there's a lot of people who criticize, and then they all like, "Oh, what do you do?" Like, bro, the people who go on Twitter, the people who go on YouTube and post about everything they do. They are the biggest tryhards, though. They are honestly suspects. Because you don't have, like, honestly, you can be proud of yourself, but I never feel the need to possibly do that. So, if you can help anyway, to try to do that, and it just make you feel better. I never need to feel the need to brag. It just feels good when you're able to help someone out. Let's get Ron. Hopefully, Ron camera can turn on.
Okay.
Roman house. It'd be a good way to end the episode.
Yeah, but I also want to let you guys know that yes, there is a fundraiser going on for me and my housing situation.
Yes.
So if you guys go to Venmo and Cash App at Mutual Aid Forever, CJ set that up and he's helping. I have to say this: my comrades at RBN have been some of the most helpful, most wonderful family members that I've had helping me out this year. And I can't tell you, between my sister Sabby and my brothers CJ, Nick, and Rome, I do not know how I'd be able to survive. So,
and it's because of our community too, because that super chat, the super chats that we got on that fundraiser is going all to JB. So, like, you guys are able to help us out, even with the people who increased their Patreon. Like, we had quite a few people who signed up on that over the last few weeks. That money going to JB. Like, this is kind of, we trying to use. Like, I got a very low cost of living. Luckily, like Ron said, I just got like 2 bills: my car and my house, and then the rest of that just going to JB. I mean, I don't need to make money on this, and you guys help, and not just us. I appreciate the praise, but it went for our community. This wouldn't be possible. So I want you guys to build these old mutual society within your own, within the people you know. Reject the individualistic ideology of capitalism. When people are down, I let them live here. I don't charge them rent. I just ask everyone that knows, I don't charge them rent. I don't do it. Like, if you can't afford it, that's okay. Everyone should pitch in if you can. But if you can afford it, why would you charge someone rent? And I'm not trying to be judgmental. If you really need help, maybe you guys should talk amongst yourself. But if you can't, we need to break away from this bullshit where you like, well, you owe me this, you owe me this. Me and my brother, we just do shit. We just do shit for each other. We just know. Oh yeah, we just know we're gonna do shit for each other. Like, break away, decolonize your mind. But Rome, sorry, I got Rome here, so I was trying to show off. Rome, where you
I was just checking in, making sure you uppity niggas ain't talking to nobody you don't supposed to be talking to.
Rome, this is why I love you.
Do what you are told, motherfuckers. Yeah, man, I do love I do love the community, man. It's all good. Most of you motherfuckers. I see some troll in this motherfucker. I came on there, I'm looking at my phone, looking at the comments. I'm like, oh, this nigga talking about the super chats. Like, you don't want people to survive, motherfucker? What's wrong with you? But yeah, man, it's always a hater out of the bunch, but we appreciate, the love, you know what I'm saying? It's just that when you're getting a lot of love, the hate is easy to see. It's easy to see the hate because it just pops up out of nowhere. Like, yeah, where the fuck did you even come from? But we appreciate everybody, and I will be back down south in a couple of days, actually. So I'm probably gonna stop by JB one more time if I can. I can swing down there. We're gonna be swinging through.
I gotta go down here one of those times, man. If I can make it, that would be so fire. That'd be so fire. When you gonna do that, bro? Because I'm going to St. Louis in October to meet with the Black Socialists.
Yeah, that's why I'm supposed to be going there too, but I don't know if I can make it.
No, it's
That's
cool,
a
bro.
lot of-
Bro, you got a lot of shit you're doing, so focus on your
Man,
work.
that's some money.
I'm gonna go St. Louis. I'm gonna be the RBN representative there.
Yeah.
When you going, JB? Because I'm shit after St. Louis. I might take a week off and I might go down Florida.
Shit,
Like
I'm about to. I'm getting everything right. I'm almost done with the fundraising. Like the fundraising is almost done. Then I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna get the care party. We're gonna be driving down there, so we can have some help with people lifting up the waters and stuff like that. So if we're driving down there, I'm pretty sure we got to drive through Florida. If not, I can hit Florida on my way back to Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so this whole subject regarding, housing, I had a couple more points that I want to make. And I'm just gonna. I had show notes, and I deviated from them, and I do apologize. But
it's probably my fault.
no. All this goes in line with each other. But I'm just gonna read my show notes really quick because I put some work into it, and I just want to make sure I get it out there.
Subscribe to JB channel, man. He's fire, boy. What y'all
Okay.
doing?
Thank you.
The channel's fire. Go ahead, JB. So I had to hop you.
No, before I do that, by the way, Roger Meadows, who's in the chat, also shared with me an article. I haven't seen this yet, so this is all new to me because he just brought it up before. I think it was either right before or right when I went live. But this is out ProPublica. It says Utah makes welfare so hard to get, some feel they must join the LDS Church to get aid.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And it says Utah's safety net for the poor is so intertwined with the LDS Church that some individual bishops often decide who receives assistance. Some deny help unless a person goes to services or gets baptized. This is wrong. This is just wrong.
They said fuck the wall. Fuck the wall over between the church and state. Nigga, we knocking that motherfucker down.
Yeah. So it starts off, it says, near the start of the pandemic, in a gentrifying neighborhood of Salt Lake City, Utah, visitors from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints arrived at Danielle Bellamy's doorstep. They were there to have her read aloud from the Book of Mormon, which LDS video, and a set date to get baptized, all of which she says the church was requiring her to do in exchange for giving her food. Bellamy.
Oh, they are fucking sick.
Yes. Bellamy, desperate for help, had tried applying for cash assistance from the state of Utah, but she had been denied for not being low income enough, an outcome that has become increasingly common ever since the then president, Bill Clinton, signed a law 25 years ago that said he would end welfare as we know it. By the way, while we're on this, anybody who says, well, the Democrats are trying to help the homeless, bullshit. Guess what? What happened with Bill Clinton? The whole thing about welfare queens, he believed the exact same thing that Ronald Reagan believed.
Yeah, they all are
and
Reagan
this is
Jr.
proof.
They all are Reagan Jr., man.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean that's a whole bunch of BS. And so this is a great article. I'm gonna give it a read more. I'm gonna paste it into the chat so you guys can give it a read. Thank you so much to Roger Meadows for posting this and tagging me in this and letting me know. I'm glad I was able to do that.
God, I forgot about this.
Oh my God! Do not get me started. Oh my God, Maxine Waters saying that.
All these people uphold white supremacy. What do you expect, man? Like, and half of these people that we're talking about has been in power for generations now. If they haven't changed anything, but the rhetoric, then they're not going to change anything fundamentally for you. Like, it's easy to ride waves. It's easy to become a socialist or say that you're a socialist, whatnot. But it's, you really got to prove that shit. And how do you say that you are the party of the people when, damn near 100,000 people die just from the lack of insurance, or healthcare, I should say. People are going homeless. We have more empty homes than we have homeless people. you know, and if they're not, they haven't changed anything. They have got paid. They got multiple houses. They got multiple cars. They got multiple businesses. They got money in stocks. They got rich while we got poor. So there is nobody in a position of power in the U.S. that will do anything, and there isn't anybody that can do anything about it. One person isn't going to come and change this. That's why I keep telling you guys, stop looking at politics like religion, because you putting your politics into everything, and now you're looking for a savior. You think some savior is going to come and stop all this evilness, stop a fascist government, 1 or 2 people, maybe 5 people? No, it's going to take multiple millions of you motherfuckers, right? You got to pull yourself out. Even your Jesus said, "I'd help those that help thyself," and all the freaking gods said you got to help yourself in order to be helped. And we can't just sit around waiting for a savior, praying for a savior, paying them to be a savior. Save your damn self, because they ain't gonna help you. And if they was gonna help you, they wouldn't be Republicans. They wouldn't be Democrats. They wouldn't hold a position of power in a fascist government.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rome. There's a couple super chats that came in. I want to make sure I get to those.
I decided. I'm probably gonna drop my call in after this. I'll put a link in the chat. So if anyone want to chat after we're done, probably drop my call in. I'm gonna talk about why. I titled it "Why Does America Hate the Homeless?" So we're gonna talk about that. So I'll put a link in the chat. I'm gonna post it again if anyone want to join this post show. That'd be dope. It's been a while since I dropped my call in, so I need to do it.
Okay. Radically Clicked, thank you so much. Radically Clicked says, "I have to live out of my pickup truck for a while, also staying at my parents' place. My conservative father did not like me saying I was homeless." Yeah, see, that's that denial and thinking that it's a personal failing when really it's systemic failing. And some people just aren't comfortable with it because they think that I failed when really it's no, the system failed me. So yeah.
Hey, what that nigga Nick said? He said, how the fuck you gonna tell me capitalism worked when it failed a whole bunch of white people or some shit?
White people. Danny Highphone was talking about the American dream, and I was like, how do people believe the American dream is true if it failed a ton of white people?
The majority.
What do you guys think is working for us?
Gosh.
That's hilarious.
Okay. Roger Meadow says, "Jay, check out Rock Before You Go, bro. I have suggestions." With that, okay, I'm gonna check it after the last super chat. Last couple ones. Yeah, Tracy, thank you so very much. Tracy says, "For JB, can you all do a segment that highlights all the anti-homeless architecture being installed across the country, paid for by taxpayers?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something that actually also couldn't be discussed. I appreciate that suggestion. That's actually a really good suggestion, and I think I'll try to implement that in next time. We can actually
combat shit like that. Like that's what I'm doing on the east side. Like, you know, Detroit, they putting up homeless infrastructure up, and I just go around and build a bench that people can lay down on. Or like right now, I'm working on a bench that folds into a picnic table so people can come and eat while they at the bus stop and whatnot. But we can actually combat this, and you know, it's certain ways that we can make sure that they stay on the ground, like that they stay in the area. Like it's good to target high populated areas. That way somebody's always sitting down on it. Somebody always needed, you know, and we can probably, you know, bolt it to the ground, make sure nobody take it, or it's not easy to take. They're gonna have to work to get it. But we can actually combat it and highlight why we at the same reason highlight why are we talking about this.
That's good. Yeah. And Loyalty asked about the call-in. Nick just answered that about call-ins. So he's might be doing that after this episode.
Yeah, make sure you gotta download the call-in app. I'll post a link in there that'll send you right to it. And you have access to our show and a lot of great shows, a lot of great lefty shows on there as well.
Yeah. Let me go to Rockfin really quick, just to make sure I get to that, because our Rockfin people on Rockfin are also awesome. So many great comments.
Maybe so professional.
Yeah. Any word says depends on what type of capitalism you talk about. It all comes down to voluntarism voluntary. Y'all know what I mean. That's the problem. I'm sorry, I can't. Voluntarism. $250,000 in student loan. That's a nasty number. $250,000 in student loans.
Ain't no motherfucking education in America worth that shit. That motherfucker's still dumb. Look at this idiot. Hold on, look at this idiot. I bet Brad, this motherfucker got money to go to college and shit. He's still a fucking idiot. Ain't no education in the world, not even in China, worth fucking $500,000. Fuck out of here.
It's true. It's true though. It's true. $500,000. That money is for introduction to the club.
Well, okay. This person was becoming a doctor. That's way like. Look, I'm gonna tell you right now. You have to spend that much money.
It makes no sense, bro. This shit's making no sense. Why do you charge your people for wanting to become doctors? You need a society that's going to take over when your leaders fail. So if your leaders fail, your proletarian is disabled, not only disabled, but undereducated. Nobody's going to be going to have what it takes to step the fuck up. Nobody's going to know how to take care of each other. Nobody's going to know how to build. Nobody's going to know how to fucking teach or stitch. What the fuck are we doing here, man? How the hell are you going to charge somebody for wanting to better your country?
Yeah. Like anywhere, I'm gonna tell you right now. To you, a crime was committed against you. You were price gouged for an education that actually helps people. You were price gouged. Like you were price gouged out the ass, bro. Like crazy. I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
I'm gonna add this. I'll pass right back to you guys. Sure. Cuban doctors are way better than ours. Do you think it costs $500,000 for Cuban doctors to be trained? Look how much money. You guys see how ineffective our system is? $250,000. I'll round it down. $250,000. I saw someone mention in the comments. $250,000 to make a doctor. Do you guys think Cuba spend that much to make doctors that are better than ours? Think about how stupid that is. But sorry, JB. I had to make that point.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. Jacob Breismer says they take the ground from right under your feet. You can't even put a tent up in some land no one using, let alone buy it for a fair price. Total dictatorship. Before Columbus destroyed the world, people hunt, fish, and farm and keep all the fruits of their labor. Now, the plutocratic take the lion's share. And your very being is criminalized unless you're adding to the system. And even then, thank you so much, Jacob. Fred Edwards Streamers Mark Premium. Yeah, that's how we get paid. Thank you so very much. Roger Meadows says, Yo, Jay, yesterday I attended a Housing for Justice for All rally march. Nice, Roger. Says, out here in Long Island suburbs. I'll be posting the videos either on YouTube or send to Twitter when uploads are finished. It was put together between Poor People's Campaign and New York Communities for Change. We marched all over Long Island. I enjoyed on the last leg when they came to my village and it ended in Nassau County Legislative Building. Roger continues, I proposed this to them, why we need a state law outlawing private equity from owning housing of any kind, transfer ownership to the state, maybe until would-be homeowners and landlords can pay it off. Outlaw vacant buildings that are simply being used as tax havens. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Instead, apply eminent domain to house the homeless. Build more fixed income housing without encroaching on nature and protecting green spaces. Roger continues, we need to do the government jobs guarantee where the wage is permanently kept above local rent rates where 25% is enough to pay for that rent. Thank you. How about a state social security law that fills in the gaps between what the federal social security check provides and the cost of living for your jurisdiction? Also, Jay, that YouTube comment didn't make sense because it was part 2 of that previous chat I sent. Thank you so very much. My man who... Sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Oh, no, you had another comment?
Yeah. He says, my man who I've known for 22 years has recently became homeless and has officially named disabled person by the government. He's on dialysis, just like me.
Damn.
He is living in a hotel. Oh gosh, he's living in a hotel. He told me how the Department of Social Services is so terrible. A lot of the stuff he was telling me was on the phone in terms of the mechanics of his interaction with the government last night. He was kind of going over my head, but the gist of it is that Clinton 1996 Welfare Reform Act that screwed us. If you want, and if he wants to, would you like to interview him? Yes, yes, yes. Also, give props to Lainey Peterson of HLM, Heartlands Media, who gave me that article regarding Utah's Church of Latter-day Saints. JB, I can hook you up with him, with an interview with him on the phone interview, though, because he doesn't have a computer, so he can't Zoom. Let me know. Thanks. DM me, Roger, please. And thank you for the tips on Rockfin. DM me his information because I really need to. I would like that information, by the way.
I would like to bring back up this chat right here because it really says a lot about America. It really says a lot. And not only did the first responders have to go to Cuba, you know, our regular citizens go to Cuba. Our regular citizens go to Canada for the diabetic medicines. You know, they go get help in Mexico. It says a lot when we're the richest country, and they just like, yeah, fuck y'all. Like, see, this is why I always say we're not the richest country, man. We just got a couple of rich niggas here because we have no money. Like the people have no money. 8 people control what 80% of our wealth.
Yeah,
we have nothing. You know, so we can't call this country rich. It's just a couple of rich niggas here. This is a third world country, especially if your citizens are fleeing to poor countries for healthcare. You are a third world country.
Yeah, and Cuba trains and sends doctors all over the world.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, it takes about $500,000 to train a doctor here. They got the vaccine for lung cancer. Their healthcare is you know, the life expectancy rate is higher in Cuba, despite an embargo that stole billions of dollars from them over the last few decades. You want to talk about what central planning model is better? Isn't the answer clear? Give Cuba a quarter of our wealth, and look what they would do.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JB.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna share this really quick article right here. I know I'm a little over time, but I want to get as much of this in as possible because this is a very deeply important topic. So I live in Orlando, Florida. That's no secret, right? So this is from rent.com and housing costs. The average rent in Orlando is $1,779 for a 1-bedroom unit. It says, although overall cost of living in Orlando runs a bit lower than the national average, you can find many affordable neighborhoods. Affordable for whom? That's a subjective term. Yeah, sure. In near Orlando. See, this is a capitalist website with Lake Sunset offering the lowest average rent of $730 per month for a 1-bedroom apartment. Yeah, right. So $1,779, right? If that's the average, right? Average rent in cities around Orlando. So Celebration, $1,500. Kissimmee, over $1,500. Melbourne, over $1,600. Tampa, almost $1,500. St. Pete, over $1,700. Clearwater, over $2,000. This is Central Florida. I'm gonna tell y'all, and we have a population explosion in Central Florida. Everybody and their mama's moving here. Look, this part of Florida where I'm in, we call it a northern state in the south. What, Rome? When you were down here, how many people? Yeah. How many people from up north did you meet down here?
Yeah, damn near everybody. Damn near everybody that we talk to, even people coming up the bus.
Everybody's like, oh man, I'm from Massachusetts, I'm from New Jersey, I'm from Pennsylvania, I'm from New York, I'm from Michigan. Everybody's like from up north, from here down in this part. And so guess what? The prices that you see up there, they're down here too. Whoop, there it is. You know, you see it down here too. And so here's my thing. You know, housing is a human right. I don't care what anybody says. Housing is a human right. And when you put the profit motive behind something that's absolutely necessary for somebody to have, then that means that barrier, if they don't have the money for it, that means that they don't have it. And if it is a need for survival, you're saying that if you do not produce enough labor for money to have housing, then you deserve to die. That is what you're saying. You are saying that people deserve to die because they don't have enough money for housing. That is inhumane. And if you're sitting here telling me that, you need to look inward at your own humanity and you need to rethink.
These people aren't humans. What the hell are you talking about? Man, they lose their humanity once they start to say shit like that, once they start to think shit like that and they actually work on hurting, you know what I'm saying, the homeless and shit like that. They lose their they lose their humanity. I don't look at these people like humans. And this is why I don't say, this is why I say Stalin didn't kill humans. Because these motherfuckers were, you know what I'm saying? Like, and look at some of these people today, how they treat the homeless, how they talk about the homeless, like it can't be you one day. I'd have met ex-millionaires, you know what I'm saying? Some people that had $10 million, $20 million. They're on the streets in California right now. They're in the streets in Florida right now because it's hot enough to stay there homeless without freezing to death. So that's why a lot of people was moving to these hot states. We said they are moving. We didn't say they own a house. We didn't say they had a place to stay, right?
You want your heart to be broken? Go to one of these hotels where a lot of people are living, and they're usually run down. And then you go out there in the morning around 6 to 6:30 in the morning, and you'll see a bunch of kids standing outside of that hotel. And what are they doing? They're waiting for the school bus because that's where they live. And if you were to come up to any one of those kids and ask them, how many people live in your room? One room, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in one room. And you mean to tell me that's not homeless? Really?
That shit inhumane. That shit inhumane. Ain't no way. Even the motherfuckers who cap hard, they punch so hard for capitalism. They know in their hearts this shit is wrong. But what you gonna do? You already in it. You already put all your chips in it, and now you look like a dumbass. You know what I'm saying? You can't sit here and deny reality. People are starving to death in the richest country on earth. Children are starving to death. You know, and we have the money, we have the resources, we have the people to pay, but it's just these stupid, greedy motherfuckers out here. There's too many greedy people at the top, and this is why we need to overthrow, not to give in, not to ask. You can't ask your oppressors. What does it look like when a slave asks his master for freedom? Nate Turner didn't ask anybody for fucking freedom. He took his shit and then he went around, he preached and he taught, he infiltrated and he killed other masters. You don't ask for your freedom. You don't ask for liberation. Because this is what we need. This is what we need. Liberation from this capitalist hellhole. So people can have a better life. So we can live longer than, you know what I'm saying? Live longer than what we are right now. Mm-hmm. We're unhealthy, undereducated. We shouldn't have to live like this. Everybody is on edge. Paychecks. You might miss a day or two, and that's your rent. That's your car note. That's this, that. You shouldn't have to live like this. People deserve the basics. People deserve the basics. And then we can move on from there. So housing, healthcare, education, you know, shit that, you know, a human needs to live. We're going to make sure those things are guaranteed. And then we can work on the other shit. But for right now, we got a lot of shit to get together. And I don't see any change coming from this government. Rather, we hold fire to their feet, or we just ask them politely. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to still be met halfway with violence. So meet them halfway with violence. They have showed you, you said hands up, don't shoot, and they shot your ass. We said we couldn't breathe. They choked up Freddie Gray. Then they put a knee on fucking on Floyd on George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're not going to get anywhere with this. Don't ask. Just take. Just do. And you know what? You might die. You might die, but at least you ain't living like a coward. You're not sitting here waiting for your opportunity to ask your oppressors for, hey, now that I got your attention, can you give us health care? I think about it next midterms.
Hey, the billionaires took. They took. We can't take back. Let me ask you guys, this word and this definition that I put up. Anybody who sympathizes with capitalism, tell me, is this a way to live? Duress. I put the definition of it in the beginning of the stream. I'm putting it back up again, because we're going to tie this up with a nice bow. Duress. Is this a way to live? Nick, Rome, what are your thoughts?
Nigga, half of it, most of half of this country is on drugs. Your motherfuckers are doped up because you are depressed, because you're sad about this reality that we live in, and you can't escape this capitalist hellhole. I don't look. What I think is, y'all motherfuckers need to come to reality, man, and just fight it. Like it's ain't no way out of this. Ain't no Xanax that's gonna stop the homelessness. That's gonna block out the hurt and the pain. Ain't none of that. Just
Rome, it's not the society. It's something wrong with your brain. Okay, to take these pills. Don't question. It surely had nothing to do.
You sure? You sure? Because I'm stressed out, man. My house. I'm losing everything. You sure it's just something in my brain?
And I'm not being holier than thou either, because if I didn't have my vices, I don't know what I would do either. But what did that say about our society? That's the point. That's the question I have. I think that's what JB's talking about. That so many people are becoming sick, which I think is legitimate. I think the malfunctions people have that make them depressed is legit. But when people just blame it on biology instead of the material conditions our society is putting them in that make it more likely to produce depression, that's the conversation they don't want to have. That would just duress, this massive amount of duress that is put on our society, which Chris Hedges writes about this all the time, the culture of despair.
Yeah, we can compare it today to China when they was going through their opioid crisis, when they was going through all that poverty. Why was all the people on drugs? Because of poverty. And when China was lifting, they lifted 800 million people out of poverty, and their drug, the rate of people that was taking drugs that was on opioids dropped significantly. So you just, this shit fucked up, but you just on drugs because we living in a hell.
Yeah, exactly.
you can't take it.
Yeah. And let's go to the synonyms, right? Coercion, compulsion, force, pressure, intimidation. Do you feel intimidated with homelessness, with hunger, with healthcare, in order to be able to look? I'm intimidated to continue to work for this person because if not, then I don't have healthcare. I'm intimidated to work for these wages and under these type of people because if I don't work for these type of people, then I'm homeless. We're constantly under coercion, compulsion, force, pressure, intimidation. That's what capitalism does. It coerces you and compulses you and it forces you, it pressurizes you and intimidates you in order to work for people that strip you of your surplus labor, of your right to housing, of your right to education, of your right to healthy food, on your right to have a healthy and adequate planet to live on. That's what it does. You are living under duress. Thank you for coming to my episode.
What do they do for these people though, Jay? They sit here, they try to berate the homeless. They try to, you know what I'm saying, chastise the addicts that's homeless. And they say, oh, well, I can help you, but you got to get off of this. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And you holding this shit over my head just make me want to do even more heroin, make me want to dig deeper into drugs. What the fuck? What made you think you holding a house over my head or help over my head is gonna relieve me? No, motherfucker, you talking about I gotta get off one of the only things that's helping me cope in this society. Because even though people are addicts and this and that, they can't just stop. They can't just stop. You're gonna get people killed. There's withdrawals after you stop drinking. There's withdrawals after you stop smoking. You're going to end up hurting more people than you want to help. So if you're going to help them people, the drugs, their addiction should be a plus on with the housing. We get them housing, then we get them rehabilitation, whenever and however they want it. It's not up to us.
Mm-hmm.
Just house the damn people. Do your fucking job.
Okay. All right. Hold up. I got something for you. Okay, let's address this. Let me ask you something. When the CIA was actually taking drugs, like
man, this nigga mama on Xanax. I ain't trying to hear this shit.
Hold up. When the CIA was actually transporting drugs into the black neighborhoods by putting crack cocaine into our neighborhoods, and then we were becoming addicted, and then the police were picking us up based on drug possession, putting us in private prisons so they can create more profit. And then they were using that profit from the sales of drugs and crack cocaine in their neighborhoods in order to do more wars and coups in South America and pushing the drug war. Do you think that was just a individualistic problem, Johnny Derp? Do you think that was just an individualistic problem? Or was it really more systemic? Oh, what about the Sackler family? And they knew exactly how addictive opioids would be, yet they did it through Purdue Pharma in order to create an opioid epidemic. And now you have thousands of people dying from opioids.
And that's why your mama on Xanax.
In our neighborhoods, and now, because there's an epidemic of opioids now, and it's happening to mostly white people. Let's call it out. Now it's a health problem, but when it was happening to us, it was a crime problem. Oh, you want to talk about that? Okay. And then on top of it, because diseases of despair and people not actually being able to afford rent and electric and bills, then because of depression, because of them not being able to afford actual healthcare and mental health care, then guess what? They have to self-medicate. In order to do that, what do? They turn to drugs in order to self-medicate to keep themselves in a certain mental place so they can deal with the system. Is that a child? Or is that a human being trying to actually deal with capitalism as the way it is? You see, that's the thing. See, we have to look at this from a mature perspective. We can't look at this from a child's perspective, right? We can't just go blaming people without looking at the systemic problems. See, an adult looks at it from a systemic issue, not from an individualistic issue. You see, the system that we live in dumbs it down, so we look at it from a child's perspective and says that we got to blame it on the individual when really it's a systemic problem. So that's the thing that we have to do. So I would like for you. No, let me get this. I would like for you to educate yourself on the matters of this, instead of perpetuating this simple myth that is always individualistic when it comes to people who are being on drugs. Because guess what? I have family members that have been on it, and they have suffered. And because guess what? They didn't have actual mental health resources because it takes money, resources that they didn't have in order to be able to do it. So please pick up a book. I'm done. Nick?
I think you handled it pretty well.
I'm just saying.
I saw we don't have to address them too much because there's I think there's like two right wing people in the comments. One of them was like, what about the 100 million dead because of communism? And I'm like, bro, that's fucking. If I was even to take that fairy tale number that you completely made up, that's rookie numbers compared to capitalism. Like,
you talking about the meal?
even if I was to take that argument at face value, compared to the amount of deaths caused by capitalism, by poverty, 65,000 Americans die each year because they don't have health care. 300,000 Americans die because of COVID because we should have health care that would have saved their lives. Then you had imperialism that caused the deaths of hundreds of millions of people. So even if I accept your number, which I don't, that mythical number that you guys come, communism killed 100 million. Well, you might well say 1 trillion. If I was to take your number, that 100 million number, that is rookie numbers compared to capitalism, the United States, the UK, British imperialism alone. It destroys the amount of human death and suffering in communism. So the only reason I tackle that is because I have fun taking that argument on.
Oh my God, man.
But go ahead, guys.
Hey, Nick, let's let the steam coming out of their ears. Guess what? Nick, you, me, and Rome, we're here because of capitalism. Our ancestors were slaves because of capitalism. Because they wanted that free labor, so they went to West Africa.
Hold on, man. You are him. That shit probably your choice too. That's just what we choice too. He was plantations. They told him to pick the cottons. He said no. It was a choice. Fuck out of here.
Rookie numbers.
Worst cruise ever. No, capitalism has been around for about 500 years, and capitalism is actually one of the reasons why my ancestors were brought here against their will on these slave ships.
No. You see, Nick, the white man told me that it was your kings and queens that sold your people, even though your kings and queens was on those boats too. Your kings and queens jumped off of those fucking boats in the Atlantic, right? But they want us to believe that it was us that sold us. It wasn't the fact that these Europeans came over with fucking weaponry, with disease and rape. That wasn't it. They sat here and made a deal with our kings and queens. And when they made those deals, they took our kings and queens too. That's how. Get the fuck out of here. Nobody believe that bullshit.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on. So I just want to say that, I want to say thank you to everybody for, also contributing to the mutual aid forever to help me with housing. This is the Cash App. Is by the same name, at Mutual Aid Forever, on Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal. So I appreciate any assistance for housing at all. Because I'm going through this right now. That's why I said this subject is very close to my heart. What's that?
Whoa, oh shit.
What happened, guys?
Well, Candace Owens is right, and this is a lot. There's still slavery in Africa, but it has a lot to do with America.
Mm-hmm.
Change your shoes. Come on, just take your shoes off. Come on.
I don't know. I'll get ready for my calling show though.
You rapping? I got to get going. But
I'm about to cut myself here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. But in Libya, they have slave trades, and you can blame that on Obama and Hillary Clinton, and then of course, you also have a lot of things that are happening under Republican presidents that also perpetuate that too. So, but I'm just gonna check any other chats on Rockfin.
Make sure you guys join on call-in if you guys have it. I'm gonna talk about homelessness too. I got a few stories I want to go over.
Yeah. I got a tip on Rockfin. I'm gonna address that really quick before we go. Let me see here. Thanks to Freethinker59 says, "Go guys, go! Thank you for all the love. I love you all. Thank you so much for the tip on Rockfin, Freethinker." Jacob Greismer says, "Mutulu, Shakur, acupuncture to get people off drugs. VC in Vietnam used this in martial arts to get people off USA imported drugs. Interesting." Black Book of Capitalism. Jacob Reisman says USA only wants to use WMDs for offense as well as not defense. Thank you so much for that. And thank you everybody for your super chats, your support. Thank you for everybody that has been sharing. I'll see you later, Nick.
Take your kid's phone, take your mama phone, take your daddy phone, take your grandparents' phone, and subscribe to RBN on a motherfucking phone.
Thanks for you guys contributing to the fundraiser, Venmo and Cash App, mutual aid forever. Appreciate it so much. And if you guys just want to support RBN directly, then you guys can go to Revolutionary Blackout. Or if you guys want to support me directly, then I also put my links in the description below as well. Thank you so much for all of you guys being in here. And Rome is doing his kid's hair. And I just want to thank you all. Thank you, SG, for the super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And Rome, I know you have some things for Tour for the Poor coming up soon.
Oh yeah, I'll be down there in Mississippi pretty soon, y'all. So if y'all down there in Mississippi, y'all want to help us out, we'll be down there in Jackson, Mississippi. We're gonna start downtown at a couple of drop-off locations, and I'm gonna also hit a couple of homeless shelters, try to make sure that they got clean water, blankets, food, and stuff like that. Whatever I got left over from the fundraiser, I'm gonna do a gas run because I know gas is hell. So people appreciate the gas runs.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you so much. And this Tuesday on my channel, I'll be having Eddie Liger Smith from Midwestern Marks on my channel. He was here on RBN a few weeks ago, which was great, but we're also going to have a great conversation. And then later, I'll probably do this later this evening, but do my readings of Dirty Truths by Michael Parenti, as well as Blood in My Eyes.
Up, you little.
It's itching me. My own hair's itching me. Shut up.
and Blood in My Eye by George Jackson. I'll be doing those readings as well. So I just want to thank all of you guys. Thank you to everybody who's participated in the stream, and thank you for even some of the clapbacks because that helped us make our points. So thanks to
maybe 100 million people was dead, man. 100 quadrillion quadruple. Wow. Communism killed the fucking planet, nigga. They was like Saints Row in this bitch.
Oh gosh. Look, forehead kisses to all y'all, including you, Rome. Forehead kisses to you too, bro.
Smoke them if you got them.
All right. Love all of you. You all are beautiful. Leave the world better than you found it. Water your plants, water yourselves, and smoke them if you got them. Mwah! I love you. Peace. And chicken grease. Bye-bye.